In country music, success often shines brightest on the stage. But behind the spotlight, there are legends who quietly lifted others to greatness. These 10 country stars didn't just chase their own fame, they opened doors, shared songs, and offered chances that changed lives forever. From Johnny Cash giving Kris Kristofferson his first big break to Dolly Parton guiding voices that echoed beyond Nashville, these untold stories reveal the true heart of country music. Johnny Cash, the man in black who opened the door for others. When people think of Johnny Cash, they remember the deep voice, the prison concerts, and the man in black who carried both rebellion and compassion in equal measure. Yet beyond his own towering career, Cash played a crucial but often overlooked role in shaping the paths of others, particularly Kris Kristofferson. In the late 1960s, Kristofferson was an aspiring songwriter with little more than a notebook full of lyrics and endless determination. Despite working odd jobs, famously as a janitor at Columbia Records, his songs kept going unnoticed. Many producers saw him as just another struggling musician in Nashville, but Johnny Cash saw something different. He recognized the raw honesty in Kristofferson's words and the authenticity that could speak to the heart of country music. The turning point came when Cash decided to take a chance. He recorded Kristofferson's Sunday Morning Coming Down and performed it live on national television in 1970. That single moment transformed Kristofferson's career forever. What had once been scraps of paper in a janitor's pocket suddenly became a song that echoed across America. It wasn't just a performance. It was a gift, a public endorsement from one of the most respected men in the business. Cash didn't stop there. He invited Kristofferson to perform at his concerts, introduced him to industry insiders, and made sure his songwriting talent got the recognition it deserved. For Kristofferson, this was not only a career break, but also validation from a mentor he deeply admired. Without Johnny Cash's support, country music might never have known the full brilliance of the man who would go on to pen classics like Help Me Make It Through the Night and Me and Bobby McGee. But Cash's generosity extended beyond Kristofferson. He was known for giving young artists stage time on his television show, The Johnny Cash Show. Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, Linda Ronstadt, and countless others benefited from that platform, where Cash insisted on featuring authentic voices, not just safe commercial acts. Johnny Cash's story reminds us that true greatness isn't only measured by records sold or awards won. Sometimes it's about the lives you touch, the chances you give, and the doors you open for others. By recognizing talent when the world turned away, Cash left behind a legacy not just as an icon, but as a mentor whose quiet kindness shaped the very soul of country music. Dolly Parton, a voice of her own and a guiding hand for others. Dolly Parton's career is a story of glitter, grit, and genius. From a humble cabin in Tennessee to becoming one of the most recognizable voices in the world, her journey is nothing short of legendary. But what often gets overlooked is her role in lifting others to the spotlight, sometimes with just a song, other times with her relentless encouragement. The most famous example comes with I Will Always Love You. Originally written by Parton in 1973 as a heartfelt farewell to her mentor Porter Wagoner, the song carried her emotions of gratitude and independence. While Dolly's version was a country hit, its true explosion came 2 decades later when Whitney Houston turned it into one of the best-selling singles of all time. Dolly could have resisted letting another artist take such a personal piece of her soul. Instead, she encouraged it, allowing Houston to give the song a new life and reach global audiences. That act alone speaks to Parton's generosity, her willingness to share her gift rather than guard it jealously. But Dolly's influence goes far beyond one song. She opened doors for countless women in Nashville, proving that female artists could control their own business, write their own songs, and run their own empires. Her Dollywood Foundation has funded education for thousands of children, showing that her definition of helping others rise isn't confined to music. It's about changing lives. In the 1980s and 90s, Dolly collaborated with younger talents, giving them credibility through her name. Artists like Alison Krauss and Miley Cyrus have publicly credited Dolly with encouragement and mentorship. Even today, she continues to champion emerging artists, sharing stages, lending her voice, and offering advice drawn from decades of hard-earned wisdom. What sets Dolly apart is the way she balances dazzling fame with humility. While many stars focus on guarding their spotlight, Dolly insists on sharing it. Whether it's handing over a song that could have defined her alone, or mentoring women who once had little place in country's male-dominated world, Dolly has always made sure that her success carried others with it. Her story proves that being a legend isn't just about talent or longevity. It's about heart. Dolly Parton didn't just become a superstar. She became a stepping stone for others to climb higher. And in doing so, she ensured her legacy would never be about one voice, but about many. Willie Nelson, the outlaw who brought others along. Willie Nelson is more than just a country icon with a braided crown and a voice that feels like a midnight conversation. He is the beating heart of the outlaw country movement, a man who challenged Nashville's rules and in the process created space for countless others to thrive. But what makes his story remarkable is not only his rebellion, it's the way he brought others with him. In the early 1970s, country music was tightly controlled by Nashville's polished production style. Artists were expected to conform, to sing neatly packaged songs with little room for individuality. Willie Nelson, tired of being boxed in, left for Texas and embraced a freer, grittier sound. He wasn't just reinventing himself. He was carving out a path for others who felt stifled by the industry's constraints. One of the greatest beneficiaries of Nelson's courage was Waylon Jennings. Jennings had long battled against Nashville producers, desperate to play music his way. Willie's decision to break free gave Jennings both the confidence and the cover to demand his independence. Together, they became the face of outlaw country, a movement that would redefine the genre and inspire generations. Their collaboration on albums like Wanted. The Outlaws proved that rebellion could also mean success, turning both men into legends. But Nelson's generosity didn't stop with his fellow outlaws. He has a long history of supporting younger talents, from sharing stages at Farm Aid concerts to championing new voices in duets and collaborations. His willingness to collaborate across genres, with artists ranging from Ray Charles to Sheryl Crow, showed that country music could be expansive, inclusive, and ever-evolving. Perhaps Willie's greatest gift has been the platform he created for others. The annual Farm Aid Festival, co-founded with Neil Young and John Mellencamp, has not only raised millions for farmers, but has also spotlighted rising musicians who otherwise might never have had such visibility. For Nelson, helping others wasn't a side project. It was central to his mission as an artist. At his core, Willie Nelson embodies the outlaw spirit, unafraid to break rules, yet unwilling to leave anyone behind. His legacy isn't just measured in the songs he's written or the records he's sold, but in the artists he empowered to be themselves, to resist compromise, and to follow their own sound. By creating a path where authenticity mattered more than conformity, Nelson ensured that the country music stage would always have room for the next outlaw ready to sing their truth. Loretta Lynn, the coal miner's daughter, who cleared a path for women. Loretta Lynn's story has always been the stuff of country legend, a coal miner's daughter who rose from poverty in Kentucky to become one of the most authentic and powerful voices in Nashville. But her greatest impact wasn't just in her chart-topping hits. It was in the way she made it possible for other women to be heard, respected, and taken seriously in an industry that long resisted them. In the 1960s, country music was still dominated by male voices and male perspectives. Women were often limited to safe themes or cast as background harmonies to their male counterparts. Loretta Lynn broke that mold with songs that spoke directly to women's lives. Don't Come Home a-Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind, The Pill, and You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man. These weren't just songs. They were bold statements that addressed infidelity, birth control, independence, and resilience. For young female artists watching from the sidelines, Loretta proved that it was possible to write the truth and still win the crowd. Her influence on other women in country music cannot be overstated. Artists like Reba McEntire, Miranda Lambert, and Shania Twain have all cited Loretta as an inspiration, not only for her music, but for her courage to say what others would not. She didn't just open doors, she kicked them wide open, leaving a space for others to walk through. Loretta's mentorship extended beyond her lyrics. She was known for taking younger women under her wing offering advice and reminding them not to compromise their authenticity. Tanya Tucker, for example, found in Loretta a role model who showed her how to balance stardom with staying true to herself. Her partnership with Conway Twitty also highlighted how a woman could stand equally alongside a male superstar. Their duets became iconic, but Loretta's presence made it clear she wasn't anyone's sidekick. She was a star in her own right, and that balance gave other women hope they could demand the same respect. Even late in her career, Loretta Lynn never stopped setting an example. In 2004, her Grammy-winning album Van Leer Rose, produced with Jack White, showed the world that a woman in her 70s could still reinvent herself and inspire a new generation of artists outside traditional country circles. Loretta Lynn's greatest gift was not only her voice, but her defiance. She gave women permission to sing about real life, to stand firm in their truth, and to demand their place in country music's spotlight. By doing so, she didn't just rise to fame, she carried countless others with her. Merle Haggard, the outlaw poet, who gave others a stage. Merle Haggard's story is one of redemption. From a troubled youth spent in and out of prison to becoming one of the most respected singer-songwriters in country history, Haggard's life was proof that hardship could be turned into art. But while his voice and songs define the struggles of working-class America, another part of his legacy often goes unnoticed: his role in giving opportunities to others. Haggard's honesty in songwriting opened doors not just for himself, but for every artist who came after. By writing about prison, poverty, and rebellion in songs like Mama Tried and Sing Me Back Home, he proved that real, gritty stories belonged in country music. This inspired a generation of younger writers who had been told their songs were too rough or too real. For the Nashville sound. Because Haggard had broken through, others no longer had to hold back. But beyond influence, Merle actively helped up-and-coming artists. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, he frequently invited new talent to open for him on tour, an invaluable opportunity in an era when exposure meant everything. Many musicians who later became household names first stood before a crowd thanks to Haggard's willingness to share his stage. His generosity wasn't about business. It was about belief in the music. Haggard also shared his wisdom freely. Known for his humility, he offered practical advice to younger performers, reminding them to stay true to their roots and not let the industry change their voice. Even those who only crossed paths with him briefly walked away with encouragement they carried for life. One of his most important contributions was keeping the Bakersfield sound alive. Alongside Buck Owens, Haggard's commitment to this raw, guitar-driven style ensured it became a foundation for country rock and later movements. By keeping the sound visible, he preserved a space where new artists could experiment without being forced into polished Nashville formulas. In his later years, Haggard collaborated with younger stars like Brad Paisley and Toby Keith, bridging the gap between old and new. These duets weren't just publicity stunts. They were his way of passing the torch, reminding the next generation that country's strength lay in its authenticity. Merle Haggard's story is a reminder that influence isn't only about record sales or awards. Sometimes it's about the quiet choices. Sharing a stage, offering a kind word, validating a song others dismiss. By lifting others as he climbed, Haggard ensured that his legacy wasn't just his own voice, but the chorus of countless artists who followed his lead. George Jones, the voice that carried others forward. George Jones is often remembered as one of the greatest vocalists in country music history. With his emotive phrasing and unmatched ability to make every lyric feel lived in, he became the gold standard for what country singing should sound like. But behind that voice was also a man who, despite his personal struggles, used his influence to lift others, most notably through collaborations and mentorship. One of the clearest examples of Jones's generosity came with Tammy Wynette. While Wynette was already a rising star, her partnership with George Jones elevated her to new heights. Their duets, such as Golden Ring and We're Gonna Hold On, became not only commercial successes, but cultural touchstones. Jones insisted that Tammy be treated as an equal partner, not just an accompanying voice. By giving her space to shine, he validated her artistry in a male-dominated industry, making sure audiences saw her brilliance alongside his own. Jones also had a knack for recognizing raw talent. Many younger artists sought his approval, and he often responded with kindness and encouragement. Randy Travis and Alan Jackson, for instance, both cited George as a mentor figure whose guidance helped shape their early careers. For Jackson, being invited to tour and perform with Jones was a breakthrough moment that exposed him to wider audiences. Jones didn't have to extend that hand, but he did, and it made a difference. Beyond direct mentorship, Jones contributed by setting an artistic bar that pushed others higher. His recording of He Stopped Loving Her Today is still considered the greatest country song of all time. Rather than intimidating younger singers, this masterpiece inspired them to dig deeper, to tell stories with the same honesty and emotional weight. Jones showed them that country wasn't about chasing trends, it was about truth. Even in his later years, Jones kept advocating for traditional country artists when Nashville began drifting toward pop influences. He invited younger, hard country singers onto his tours, reminding the industry that there was still an audience for authenticity. This quiet support gave those artists both credibility and visibility. George Jones's personal life was filled with battles, alcoholism, failed marriages, and financial troubles, but his generosity toward others in music remained consistent. By choosing to share his stage, his voice, and his credibility, Jones ensured that the next generation of country stars had both inspiration and opportunity. In the end, his legacy is not only the songs he sang, but the voices he helped carry forward. Garth Brooks, the superstar who shared his spotlight. Garth Brooks is the best-selling solo artist in U.S. history, a performer who redefined what country music could look and sound like on the global stage. With his arena-filling shows, crossover appeal, and groundbreaking records, Brooks could have easily kept the spotlight focused solely on himself. Instead, he consistently used his fame to elevate others, proving that true success is often measured by the doors you open for those who follow. Perhaps the most significant story of Brooks's generosity lies in his support for Trisha Yearwood, who would later become his wife. In the late 1980s, before Trisha's career had taken off, Brooks recognized her extraordinary voice. He invited her to sing on a demo recording of Like We Never Had a Broken Heart, a gesture that introduced her to Nashville's inner circle. As Brooks's own star began to rise, he didn't leave her behind. Instead, he continued to promote her talent, giving her key opportunities to perform and collaborate. By the early 1990s, Trisha had established herself as a star in her own right, but it was Brooks's early encouragement that helped her cross the threshold. Brooks also set an example of generosity with his band and crew. He often insisted that the people around him receive recognition, treating them not as background players, but as essential partners in his success. This attitude filtered down into the culture of country tours, where younger artists learned to value loyalty and teamwork. In his concerts, Brooks frequently highlighted new or lesser-known artists, allowing them to share his massive stage in front of thousands. For those performers, even a short opening slot in a Garth Brooks show could mean the difference between obscurity and opportunity. His willingness to give them a chance spoke volumes about his character. Beyond music, Brooks has also been involved in numerous charitable causes, often inviting other artists to participate. His Teammates for Kids Foundation and countless benefit concerts not only raised millions, but also gave newer artists a platform to join meaningful work alongside a global superstar. What makes Garth Brooks stand out is how he balanced superstardom with humility. He could dominate the charts and still take time to lift others. He could fill stadiums while making room for voices just starting out. For Brooks, success was never a solo act. It was something meant to be shared. By helping Trisha Yearwood find her footing, by mentoring young performers, and by using his fame to amplify others, Garth Brooks proved that even the biggest spotlight in country music can shine brighter when it illuminates more than one star. Reba McEntire, the queen who lifted others with her crown. Reba McEntire has long been known as the Queen of Country, with a career that spans decades, countless awards, and a presence that transcends music into television, film, and business. But beyond her dazzling success, Reba has always been a mentor, a champion for women, and a supporter of the next generation of country artists. Her story is not just about being at the top. It's about pulling others up with her. In the early years, Reba fought her way through a male-dominated industry, where female artists often struggled to get airplay or respect. By the 1980s, she had established herself as a powerhouse, known for her ability to take control of her career, choose her material, and reinvent herself time and again. What she learned in that process became lessons she shared with others. One of Reba's greatest contributions has been her encouragement of younger female artists. She became a role model for stars like Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, and Miranda Lambert, not just for her music, but for her professionalism, resilience, and generosity. When Kelly Clarkson, for example, transitioned from pop into country influences, Reba didn't just applaud her. She collaborated, performed alongside her, and gave her credibility in Nashville. Their duets and tours together demonstrated Reba's commitment to making space for new voices. Reba has also been a tireless advocate for equality in the industry. She often spoke openly about the challenges women face in country music, using her platform to demand more opportunities and recognition for female talent. By doing so, she cleared the way for the next generation to find not only their voices, but also their confidence. Her mentorship extends beyond music. As an actress and businesswoman, Reba has inspired artists to diversify their talents, proving that one can succeed in multiple arenas. She frequently offers advice to young performers on longevity, reminding them that careers are marathons, not sprints. In her live shows, Reba has often given the spotlight to new opening acts, sometimes personally selecting them to ensure they had the exposure they needed. Many of today's stars trace pivotal early moments of their careers back to sharing a stage with Reba. What makes Reba's influence so profound is the way she leads by example. She embodies strength without arrogance, success without selfishness. For every chart-topping hit, there's a story of someone she encouraged, someone she gave a chance, someone who found inspiration in her path. Reba McEntire may be crowned the Queen of Country, but she has never kept that crown to herself. By lifting others, she ensured that her reign would never just be about one queen. It would be about a kingdom of voices she helped empower. Randy Travis, the traditionalist who gave others their first break. Randy Travis emerged in the mid-1990s as a breath of fresh air, a traditionalist voice at a time when country music was leaning heavily toward pop influences. With his deep, steady baritone and songs like Forever and Ever, Amen, and Deeper Than the Holler, he brought the genre back to its roots and won over both critics and fans. But Randy's influence wasn't just about restoring traditional country. It was about ensuring the next generation had a place to thrive. One of his most important contributions came in the early 1990s, when Travis helped launch the career of Alan Jackson. Jackson, then an aspiring songwriter and performer, had been struggling to find an opening into Nashville's tightly knit industry. Travis, already established as a star, recognized Jackson's talent and personally recommended him to industry executives. This recommendation helped Jackson secure his first major record deal, and the rest is history. Today, Alan Jackson is considered one of the pillars of modern traditional country, thanks in no small part to the door Randy Travis opened for him. Travis's support didn't stop there. Throughout his career, he invited younger artists to open for him on tour, giving them crucial exposure in front of large audiences. Many up-and-coming singers remember those moments as pivotal to their development, when the validation of sharing a stage with Randy gave them confidence and credibility. He also modeled integrity in an industry that often pressured artists to chase trends. His steadfast devotion to traditional sounds encouraged younger musicians to remain true to themselves, even when Nashville demanded something flashier. In this way, Randy's career became both an example and a shield, allowing others to pursue authenticity without fear of being dismissed. Even after his devastating stroke in 2013, which silenced his singing voice, Randy continued to inspire and encourage. His story of resilience, appearing at events, supporting charitable causes, and offering mentorship where he could, reminded younger artists that a career isn't only about chart success, but about endurance, dignity, and heart. Randy Travis's quiet acts of generosity, his recommendation of Alan Jackson, his willingness to share stages, and his consistent defense of country's roots cement his place not just as a legendary performer, but as a guardian of the genre. He didn't just rise to fame, he ensured there would always be room for others to rise behind him. Alan Jackson, the star who passed the torch to a new generation. Alan Jackson's career is often described as the perfect balance between tradition and modernity. With his tall cowboy figure, unmistakable voice, and a string of hits like Chattahoochee and Remember When, Jackson carried the torch of classic country into the new millennium. Yet what makes his story stand out is not just his own success, but how he quietly gave back, offering opportunities to artists who would go on to shape country's future. One of the clearest examples came with the Zac Brown Band. In 2008, the group was still largely unknown outside of Georgia, fighting for recognition on the national stage. Alan Jackson, already a superstar, saw their potential and invited them to join him on tour. More than that, he lent them credibility by collaborating on the single As She's Walking Away. The song not only became a hit, but also introduced the Zac Brown Band to millions of listeners who might otherwise have overlooked them. Their career skyrocketed, and Jackson's endorsement played a critical role in that breakthrough. Jackson also made a habit of choosing his opening acts carefully, often giving the spotlight to younger artists who needed it most. These decisions, seemingly small at the time, were life-changing for the musicians who suddenly found themselves in front of packed arenas filled with potential fans. His generosity wasn't loud or self-congratulatory. It was quiet, consistent, and rooted in his belief that country music needed new voices to stay alive. Beyond specific acts of mentorship, Alan Jackson helped by holding fast to tradition at a time when country music was becoming increasingly commercialized. His insistence on keeping steel guitars, fiddles, and storytelling alive in his music gave younger traditionalists the courage to do the same. For many artists who came after him, Jackson wasn't just a superstar. He was proof that authenticity could still win in Nashville. Even off the stage, Jackson was known for kindness and humility, always approachable to fans and supportive of peers. Younger artists often spoke about how he took time to encourage them, reminding them to stay grounded and true to themselves, no matter how bright the spotlight became. Alan Jackson's legacy is twofold. He carried forward the spirit of traditional country, and he made sure the next generation had a chance to carry it even further. By helping acts like the Zac Brown Band rise to fame, he proved that greatness isn't only about standing tall. It's about knowing when to step aside and let others shine.